Hello, everybody. Welcome to SHCTV. I'm Secondhand Coke, back with episode 13. Today, we will be looking at Harry and Meghan, Lady C's biography about Harry and Meghan. The true story: are they persecutors or victims? So remember, this is the second edition of her first biography of the same name. Before we jump into Lady C and her what she shared about this part of their lives together, let's talk about the Academy Awards, since it happened and all. I didn't mean to go back. I meant to go forward. But yeah, look at the Academy Awards, since we just had them last night. And then, of course, swirling around yesterday in the media is why Meghan Markle and Prince Harry skipped the 2025 Oscars. That came out in Elle yesterday. Byline is that the Duchess of Sussex has never attended this award ceremony. Yeah, she's never attended it. She's never will. So why do we have this article every year when she doesn't attend the Academy Awards? It's a big question, but as I answered for you several weeks ago, Meghan has nothing to do with film or the film industry. Her show has nothing to do with the film and the film industry. And even though they took care of presenting on the tragedies with the LA wildfires, they didn't need her prancing around in front of the screen to take care of it. So that was that. Now, the other thing we have coming up really in the next 24 hours is the long-awaited With Love, Meghan cooking show that she'll be sharing with us. Now, we know that in the last 24 hours, she's put out another Instagram plug for it. This one supposedly reveals little Lily with the back of Serena Williams' head. As regards to whether that's too big to be Lily or not, I think that looks on par for a 3-year-old little girl. And Harry is kind of tall. She looks kind of like the little girl they had on his hip for where they had her in long knee socks for some reason on the 4th of July. I mean, I'm not seeing, new cast children for each of these events. I mean, I certainly believe that there is some craziness going on as concerns those births, because I've been pregnant a few times in my life, and that's not how my pregnancy worked. It's not how any of the pregnancies of my friends or neighbors or family members have worked. And so I've got questions about how those children arrived on this earth. And I think a lot of people do. Whether or not we'll ever get the answers is uncertain. But I'm going to tell you, I hope we never need to have the answers on whether or not she gave birth by a surrogate, because I hope that things go as planned, that when King Charles does happen to pass away, whether sooner, whether later, I know the family is hoping for later, that King William takes his royal mantle up and rules for a good long time, followed by his son, King George. And if, heaven forbid, something were to happen to King William, that King George would be there in the background ready to take up the responsibility, or that Queen Charlotte would be there ready to come behind her brother, or King Louis in the case of Charlotte. I know they fly together as a family, and I know that, Lady C at least has said that they prefer, if something like that were to happen, that it would happen to all of them. But I really do think there needs to be some thought and some action on the part of that, at least by the time Prince George turns 12, which I think he turns 12 in August. So anyway, With Love, Meghan coming out in, it said midnight Western time. So that's 3 a.m. Eastern time. If I can manage to stay up, I will stay up and I will have a review for you for the first episode first thing tomorrow morning if I can. If I cannot, it will be coming out soon as possible. And I hope to get those out right after another, episode by episode, so that you feel that you've watched enough of it, or at least heard me bitch about most of it, enough to snark along with the best of them. But that you don't have to watch it yourselves. And one thing I encourage all of you to do is don't watch it yourself. Let me go into the cave and fight this dragon, just like Harry, I went into a cave with the media and I fought a dragon. And it wasn't so bad because we came to a conclusion where the dragon just said, "Here, have some of my gold." And I said, "Oh, well, right, certainly." And then I took his gold and walked back out. And my attorney said, or my solicitor said, that that was a good deal because I would have lost, quote, "my ass big time," end quote. Not sure what that means, but I got some of the dragon's hoard. And so that is good news, I know, to my wife, who needs me to defend her from all of the bad actors in the UK reading the UK tabloids and believing the things that they say about her. Things like she has isolated me away from my family. Things like she won't let my children see my parents and she has isolated our children away from their family. All kinds of things that the tabloids have said that my wife has to deal with. And it's ever so troubling when people call it the truth, because then I start to think, my Lord, is it the truth? But luckily, she is right there beside me to help me rethink that. But anyway, so we do so hope you'll enjoy With Love, Meghan, starting tonight. And be assured that Secondhand Coke will be right there, ready to snark through every episode with you. Okay, enough Prince Harry for now. Back to the book. So we got up to chapter 4, and that's where we are taking off right now. Lady C begins chapter 4 by explaining how the 24-hour news cycle is relatively new, and that the 24-hour news cycle is in a big way part of what was able to feed into Meghan becoming what she was. Had she come on the scenes at the same time as, say, Kate Middleton did, and that's no disrespect for her, for me to call her Kate Middleton. I just have watched them since they were Wills and Kate and Tiger Beat, and I just have utmost respect for Catherine, the Princess of Wales, but will call her Kate Middleton on occasion. But had she come on the scene around the time, had Meghan come on the scene around the time that Kate Middleton did, the media wasn't working yet at that time as it did with the full 24-hour news story that was on the scene when Meghan arrived. So a lot of you certainly remember when the only time you got access to news stories was at like certain times of day, 6 a.m., 6 p.m., 11 p.m., whenever the newspaper would show up in early morning. And then there were some afternoon papers that would come out as well. Not so much in the U.S. I think they were more reserved for the U.K. But on television, if something big happened, a president died, or Princess Diana died, they would break into the programming that was happening at that time via whether it was, an episode of one of my mom's episodes of General Hospital, in the case of Reagan, and if it was during an episode of Saturday Night Live, as was with the case with Princess Diana, they would break into the news and then they would dominate the news on every network channel, and you wouldn't hear anything else but about, this breaking news. Well, as the news stations started to get their own channels, they just started to dominate the news station, as part of their station every day and recycle news, as we've seen. Now, however, we have thousands of channels, some of which are news channels that run all day long. And Lady C explains in chapter 4, which is the only reason I'm explaining it to you now, how PR takes advantage of that by selling pre-written stories about the stars they want to give publicity. And they sell those pre-written stories to the channels that are going to draw the biggest audiences for the individual that they're running publicity for. And so, before you would have a reporter chasing a beat, following up on certain celebrities and running around trying to get a scoop, trying to get an inner source. And then because there's so much more news to cover, you can have something like an entertainment network that is just nothing but celebrity news. And the way that they started stocking their news was that PR companies would create the news and then sell them to these 24-hour news sources, and they would put out exactly the image that they wanted the particular actor or celebrity or whomever to go out with, because it was, a huge opportunity to spin a cycle of news that is positive for the source that you're reporting for. And that's kind of what changed everything regarding the news. So now where there is true journalism, which is still in periodicals like The Hollywood Reporter, trade magazines that are about a group of people, serious news magazines like, the Economic Times, things like that. I mean, you can't even say Time magazine anymore after that ridiculous display of Meghan wearing a suit and Harry looking like her hairdresser in the background. But there are still those serious periodicals, and those are the ones that have managed to tank Meghan Markle. And especially, I love how Vanity Fair has gotten her, because I think she thought they were in her back pocket, but they were not. So when you're watching this type of programming, I would always look for, do these reporters report the good and the bad sides of an individual or an individual group? Is the information true? Does it make sense? Does it make sense regarding something else you've seen before? Can you make it make sense with their storyline, going back to the beginning? With Meghan Markle, a big issue was that she wanted to paint herself as this philanthropist with, quote, cause-driven work. But then when people went back and tried to find evidence of that, all they had was a couple of staged photo shoots, and that's it. And so, when you catch a story or a glimpse of an individual, you want to go back and you want to try to dig around and make sure that what's being said is indeed true. There shouldn't be a bunch of gaping questions left in an article about somebody. Like when you finish an article about anybody, but let's say Meghan Markle, you should finish having more questions answered than having questions. But no, we're still in the day and age where they will say, plug or do clickbait with a headline like, a glimpse into Lilibet's day in Montecito with her parents. And then there'll be like a sentence saying Lilibet, who was born to Prince Harry and Meghan, Duchess of whatever, in June, and she lives with her brother, and that's it. And so you don't have any more questions answered than you had. So that's another thing to be thinking about when you're judging your media. And that's a big section of chapter 4 in Lady C's book, is going through those techniques and going through how Meghan's mismanagement of media actually came and bit her in the ass. But we're so glad her incompetence has really helped us a lot. And I think that's good. So, a few quotes from the passages in chapter 4 that I thought kind of stood out. Um, the first section, Lady C says that in the hunt to find the relics that we talked about of her past that show that she was this not evangelical, that she was this humanitarian, um, feminist working on behalf of women and girls through her entire life. They went back looking for relics of that quote on the plains of her past. Lady C continues. In this hunt, they were joined by many of their British and European colleagues from countries such as Germany, whose media have a vigorous tabloid element. They also are not tame productions. They never were. Although in tone and content, some of them are akin to the National Enquirer in the United States. Many others are more serious and solid publications. The one thing they share with the sleazier element is the desire to unmask. They are after the dirt, as the Americans put it, and they will stop at nothing to get to the bottom of a story as long as it is topical enough. Meghan, Lady C says, was in her mid-30s. She had lived a full life. She had had a series of men. I guess I agree with that. I mean, when you think about it, it's not like she had 800 of them. I mean, she did seem to value long-term relationships and maybe had 5 or 6. But I do agree that time during which she was supposedly with Corey, I think there was a lot going on over there at Soho House behind the scenes. But that's just me, running my mouth, and who knows if I'm right or not. But time may or may not tell. But I don't know that she had yeah, okay, Lady C, I'll give it to you. She had a series of men. She had tried her hand at many different activities. There was never any doubt that there would be newsworthiness about her. And that there was a press that was hungrily waiting for information about her. And she, at this point, when she is finally making the transition from being her own, little nobody actress in a nobody TV show in Toronto, she's finally translated herself to where she has world fame. And she has a history of having fed the press, not shied away from them or cultivated any privacy around them. We can look at these pictures over here on the right side. She would call this celebus or whatever, and then there's other ones with it'll come out later when we talk about how she set up her dad, but where she's calling people to pretend like she's signing autographs in the street. And they've essentially hired people so that they'll stand here. Oh, Meghan, can you sign an autograph? Can you sign an autograph? And she's just standing there signing autographs, knowing that she's paying these people to sign her signature. But again, with the obsession this woman has with her own handwriting, which I will do an entire show on when I do a handwriting analysis on her, it's not to too surprising. These are some things like you can buy on eBay a picture of Meghan dressed up as Rachel Zane, with her name signed on a piece of metal plate, and then Meghan Markle as Rachel Elizabeth Zane. Who knew? Who knew that Rachel's middle name was Elizabeth? That's beautiful. I'm so glad we can know that now. And if you want to, you can buy that on eBay and put it on your wall, or you can buy this posed picture of her in a blue dress that she signed out during one of these kind of cattle call signings, and you can put that up on your wall. According to the guy who interviewed her for the Just Wild About Harry interview on in Vanity Fair, for the first Vanity Fair interview, she did have a lot of pictures of herself on her kitchen wall. That's one thing he did say that I thought was kind of interesting. But Meghan's having previously cultivated this level of fame, all of a sudden it becomes a problem for her. And so she is demanding that Harry put out statements about it. So she's, if we are to imagine, throwing herself down on their kitchen floor every week down at Hogwash House or whatever, and she is just crying and crying about how, oh my God, the tabloid, they put so much press on me. They're always where I am. I just can't stand it. I was in Whole Foods and someone looked at me, Harry. They looked at me. Oh my God. And Harry's like, oh, love, this is just like they did to Mummy. Someone looked at Mummy in Whole Foods as well. I shall not have this. So Lady C reports, by the end of the first week of real fame, Meghan was so perturbed about the intrusion of the press that she is making Harry stand up and issue a statement. And this statement reads, since he was young, Prince Harry has been very aware of the warmth that has been extended him by members of the public. He feels lucky to have so many people supporting him and knows what a fortunate and privileged life he leads. Really? Because I've read Spare and I'm not sure he knows what a fortunate and privileged life he's led. He thinks he has been put upon his whole life because his mom died, even though lots of people's mom died. Like, people's moms are dying every day, and quite young children's moms are dying every day. But no, it happened to Prince Harry, so it's really bad when Prince Harry's mom died. The statement continues. He feels lucky to have so many people supporting him and to have so many people, and knows what a fortunate and privileged life he leads. He can't help but remember the defamatory stories out of the papers. His mother having to struggle past photographers in order to get to her front door, the attempts of reporters and photographers to gain illegal entry to her home. Oh, I'm sorry, this is talking about Meghan's home. So he's switched over because I skipped a page of his treatise out to the press because I thought it was just too ridiculous. But in there, he starts to say, there are defamatory stories coming out in the papers about Meghan. Meghan's mother is having to struggle past photographers in order to get to her front door. The attempts of reporters and photographers to gain illegal entry to her home and the calls to police that followed, the substantial bribes offered by papers to her ex-boyfriend, the bombardment of nearly every co-friend, co-worker, and loved one in her life. Prince Harry is worried about Ms. Markle's safety and is deeply disappointed that he has not been able to protect her. It is not right that a few months into a relationship with him that Ms. Markle should be subjected to such a storm. He knows that commentators will say this is the price she has to pay and that this is all part of the game. He strongly disagrees. This is not a game. It is her life and his. He is also aware that there is significant curiosity about his private life. He has never been comfortable with this, but has tried to develop a thick skin about the level of media interest that comes with it. He has rarely taken formal action on the very regular publication of fictional stories that are written about him, and he has worked hard to develop a professional relationship with the media focused on his work and the issues he cares about. And I just want to break in there and say that Harry's work at that time worked. He was like number 2 favorite royal in the family. People weren't taking pot shots at Harry at that point. Anyway, he continues, but the past week he has seen a line crossed. His girlfriend, Meghan Markle, has been subject to a wave of abuse and harassment. Some of this has been very public. The smear on the front page of the newspaper, the racial undertones of comment pieces, and outright sexism and racism of media trolls and web article comments. So then he, goes into what people are saying on social media. Like that's in any way the same thing as what the press are saying. Some of it has been hidden from the public. Then it sounds successful if it's not in public. The nightly battles to keep everything contained, I'm guessing, have been troublesome, and he has asked for this statement to be issued in the hopes that those in the press who have been diving into this story can pause and reflect before any further damage is done. He knows that it is unusual to issue a statement like this, but hopes that fair-minded people will understand why he has felt it necessary to speak publicly. So one big point Lady C makes is just what I have printed under here. When and why and what did he not say when Chelsea and Cressida were hounded? Because they certainly were troubled by the press, more so than Meghan, and Harry never felt the need to make any kind of protecting comment. And that's odd. Wonder why he felt that he did this time. Another point that Lady C makes in this section is that this statement skived off unfair criticism, but it also did the same for unfair criticism. And this statement, given that Harry never felt it, it also did the same for fair criticism. And given that Harry had never felt it necessary for his 2 other major relationships, was demonstrably spurred into existence by Meghan, already trying to engineer herself into a Diana type setting and connotation and recognition. Lady C did say that MI5 did a complete background search of Meghan and found a lot of worrying things, mostly in the form of a woman who makes transactional relationships and then leaves the corpses, I believe was Lady C's word, of those relationships floating in her wake as she moves on across the Atlantic toward her big mark, which actually, to me, doesn't look like the mark was Harry. The big mark was Willie. And Lady C reports that there were lots of times when Meghan tried to get scheduled into a one-on-one meeting with William, and that William purposefully insisted that this never happened and that he was never alone with her for anything, which I think shows some wisdom on his part. But regardless, I believe that Harry was very much the consolation prize here. When it comes to Meghan's angles or her goals for her relationships within the royal family.
To find out the cause, because otherwise you're just putting a band-aid on the problem. It'd be wonderful if we could do enough.
Okay, hopefully those don't keep talking while I'm recording. They have a habit of famously doing that. But with Lady C says it's not although it wasn't obvious at the time, it would later become apparent that Meghan, who happily labeled herself a feminist, despite all evidence pointing to a woman who had used her femininity most effectively in both a modern and old-fashioned way on her upwards trajectory throughout life, had actually an out-of-date viewpoint more suited to Gloria Steinem's struggle in the 60s and 70s than the realities of the roles women were playing in contemporary society. And Lady C says that this is yet another thing that diverted away from the knowledge that she will have known it would alight upon sooner or later. How appropriate is it for any member of a royal family in a constitutional monarchy, which has to remain politically neutral and respectful of the opinions of all its citizens, to take up with an aggressive, proactive, ambitious, opinionated political activist? The TIG was visible proof that her beliefs and personality were incompatible with the royal role with which she was trying to inevitably fulfill with Harry, should her relationship with Harry, as it did, result in marriage. And the valid question at that time, which she and Harry managed to keep people from talking about, was how will someone as vociferous as Meghan Markle, whose posture is that she needs to use her voice, fit into a role that requires the silent acceptance of, even respect for, viewpoints which may not be your own? So let me see how I want to handle these videos here that I have. So when Harry made his statement saying, "Lay off my girlfriend," his statement had an effect on the integration of Meghan as a team member into the family. He was hiding from the family, and the family was not as in the dark as Harry probably thinks, but he was bringing someone into the family with true political motives, knowing that those motives are not supposed to be a part of her work as a working royal. And it would have been well at that point in time for at least her to have been well and truly told, you can't just go around talking your junk about women and girls all the time. You know, you can do things silently for the help of women and girls, but getting up and running your mouth and make speeches, that's not where you're at right now. And it's going to take you a long time to get to that. So it kind of put the kibosh on how she was able to be briefed, but I have a feeling she didn't want to be briefed any other way. But what the MI5 investigation uncovered was that there was a, quote, reckless disregard for the political damage that could be done by trying to politicize her royal title. Something that she had always planned to do was to be a political driving force in this role. So check out her first contribution with the 5-4. This is when she and Catherine and Harry and William were first meeting and talking. And we'll run this interview here.
Project or another campaign, similar impacts there together, as a unit, as a family. But I think we've got to be careful how and when we target those moments. You've got to use them carefully, and you've got to plan for them. They take a lot of preparation to do. I think each of us have got our own ideas and work streams that we'd like to build upon. For me personally, I think following on from Heads Together, tackling male mental health. There's still a huge stigma and taboo around male mental health. Suicide, for instance, among young men is still one of the biggest killers in the country. Some of the statistics that came out from Heads Together was that we managed to create 800,000 new conversations amongst men on mental health, which we thought was really good. And the other interesting fact as well was that only 2% of people at work go to HR to talk about mental health. 2%. So that shows that, work is one of the most stressful places that we go to every day. And the fact is that people aren't feeling like they can go to work and actually speak to those people who, in theory, know the system and know what the environment you're working in.
Yes, I mean, I think that knowing that I've just been here for 3 months, right? And in that amount of time, but with that said, for me, it's very important to, once you hit the ground running, even if you're doing it quietly behind the scenes, which is what I've focused my energy on thus far, is meeting with the right people, meeting with the right organizations behind the scenes quietly, learning as much as I can so that I can maximize the opportunity we have here to really make an impact. I think what's interesting is I hear a lot of people saying, when speaking about girls' empowerment, finding and knowing their worth, or women's empowerment as well, you'll often hear people say, well, you're helping women find their voices. And I fundamentally disagree with that, because women don't need to find a voice. They have a voice. They need to feel empowered to use it, and people need to be encouraged to listen. And I think right now, in the climate that we're seeing with so many campaigns, I mean, with Me Too and Time's Up, there is no better time than to really continue to shine a light on women feeling empowered and people really helping to support them, men included in that. I mean, it makes such a tremendous difference. So,
Right. So basically, Meghan replies, William has just made a speech about how their research has shown that young men are some of the biggest demographics at risk for catastrophic suicide. And with a catastrophic suicide attempt, you mean, like, I guess I shouldn't be saying suicide, I should saying end one's life or something like that for YouTube, but that men are at risk. And Meghan follows up by talking her same blathering about women and being at risk. She replies with her same speech about women not needing to find their voice, which, if we don't need to find our voice, then why do we have to make such a big damn deal out of it when Lily found her voice? What in the hell was that? Why? Why? Oh, I just want to announce that Lily has found her voice. Well, hot diggity dog, whoop-de-damn-do. My kids found their voice at like 4 months old when they're yelling at me to get their milk. I mean, get real, woman. But, and amidst all that blathering that she just did, she just drew attention to the fact that she had not listened, even though she said she should be hanging back and listening at this time. She had not listened to one word that William had said. And as a newcomer, any newcomer into any position anywhere should be primarily listening. You don't come in and say, I'm going to change everything that you're doing, when people have been working long before you got there and their initiatives already in place. And you know what? You could learn from the people that you're watching in the workforce that you're now joining. But no, she, as the newcomer, she should be saying veritably nothing until she's had time to find her place within Heads Together. And then she can start express ways to branch out or tweak functions here and there, or change wording, or point out that, Lily wants green beans or whatever the hell. But not at this, not her first engagement where she was to be being introduced as a member of what people were so excited about at the time, the Fabulous Four. We thought these four were just going to take it and, make it. And because of her, they didn't. And it is because of her that they didn't. It's not because she's the only newcomer. Not them. They worked along very well without conflict, without anything like that. And, they were able to listen to Catherine's voice, even though she's female. They were able to listen to the voices of people of color out among the constituency that they serve. But Meghan is the one who came in and made it a problem. And the problem is because Meghan she has never intended to bring any asset to the royal family. And here's where Lady C's book comes back in, because we have the engagement, and we have the engagement interview, and I want to show you a little of that in a minute. But also, what comes up there is that she is asked about her role as, having a quarter African American heritage, supposedly, or a half. Sorry, it's 48% Nigerian and Canadian, and what was that other one? Maltese. Jeez. Okay. So, and when you see here in this engagement interview, you can see that Harry's initial goal was for her to work with the family. He was not working to pull away from the family. He had no ideas of not working with his father, with his brother, with his sister-in-law. He had no ideas of them being anything but a well-oiled machine, and that Meghan would be another important spoke in the wheel. And I want you to watch her face, Meghan's face, when she says that.
Your ethnicity, Meghan. When you realised that, what did you think?
Of course, it's disheartening. It's a shame that is the climate in this world, to focus that much on that, or that would be discriminatory in that sense. But I think, at the end of the day, I'm really just proud of who I am and where I come from, and we have never put any focus on that. We've just focused on who we are as a couple. And so when you take all those extra layers away and all of that noise, I think it makes it really easy to just enjoy being together and tune all the rest of that out.
But now that it is all official, Prince Harry, do you have that sense that the combination of the two of you, your different backgrounds, that you together represent something new for the royal family?
I don't think it's something new. I think it's for me, it's an added member of the family. It's another team player as part of the bigger team. And for all of us, what we want to do is be able to carry out the right engagements, carry out our work, and try and encourage others and the younger generation to be able to see the world in the correct sense, rather than perhaps having a distorted view. So the fact that I fell in love with Meghan so incredibly quickly was sort of confirmation to me that everything, all the stars were aligned, everything was just perfect. It was this beautiful woman just sort of literally tripped.
Love bombing. Sorry. I tried to back it up so that you could see how Meghan's face drops as soon as he says, I wanted her to be like part of the family, but I can't, alas, get it to rewind the way that I want it to. So, you can probably rewind on this video and see it. But look at that face. This was a woman who just got mad at him because he said what? Because she said, what? You want to include me in the family? You want me to be part of a team? There is no me in team player, and there is no Meghan in Windsor. So I don't understand any of that. I mean, you can just look at this woman and tell that she never had any inclination to join the family and be a new productive member of the team. And it's her. It's not Harry. Harry's not marrying her thinking, oh boy, I get to have wealth now, and I might get to have an extra sausage at breakfast time now that I'm married. And if Meghan and I make our own money, then I can perhaps have Willie's sausage and a new house instead of living in hogwash cottage wherever we live right now. but I don't know that I want all of that. I want to be a team player. He's saying that. He's saying that in his very sincerely in his engagement interview. She is very clearly not happy with it, and so to believe that he is, just as on board with socking it to the royal family as she is, I don't see it, at least not yet in chapter 4 of Lady C's book and in what I've seen supplementing that. Okay. Okay, next thing that Lady puts in chapter 4, and this is a subject that obviously means a lot to her because I hear it a lot on her show, and it's the blackamoor brooch. And Lady C makes a very big deal out of saying that Princess Michael of Kent wore. Nobody likes Princess Michael of Kent. She sucks. And so, whatever. But the blackamoor brooch is not racist because it's about the black Moors, the Spanish Moors, the Moors that would be of whom Othello was a part. It would be the black Africans from whom Charlotte of Mecklenburg descended, and from whom it's very important for Lady C, for everybody to know that William and Harry have not only Indian blood, but they also have blood coming from the black Moors of Morocco and southern part of Spain, northern part of Africa. So these are not the same Africans as were enslaved during the ages of slavery. So, given that, not all of Africa is all of Africa, there was some groups that were very well regarded and very wealthy and very capable of buying and selling white people of their own. And I don't know the extent to which they did that, but that is Lady C's response to the blackamoor brooch. I don't have a real stance on it, but I know it's important to her, and it was important enough to her to include in this chapter, so I am including it there. She moves on from that because Meghan claims that the blackamoor brooch was a microaggression against her marrying into the royal family. They don't want her because she's part black, and how sad that everybody is thinking of that. The reality is that everybody was thrilled, like that she was coming from a diverse cultural background. I mean, that was kind of her selling point, if I'm not mistaken. But she's the one who viewed it as a negative, which indicates to me that maybe she has some internalized racism. Because to me, I thought, oh, this is great. I don't know how everybody else felt. I know I saw an awful lot of white people waiting out in the cold during the wedding and cheering and just as proud to watch another fantastic display of UK pageantry, and just as proud to be part of that pageantry and be part of that nation that has, maintained its royal family for almost exactly 1,000 years now. And I don't see the internalized racism that they see is there. I see Meghan's internalized racism. I don't know, and I'm free to be corrected because I do want to know. While I'm sure some, jack-offs on social media didn't get on there and say some awful things, that's what happens on social media, which is 100% free. It doesn't mean that the tabloids were saying those things, for heaven's sake. It was just individuals on social media just trolling around doing what they do. Anyway, so the last thing that Lady C covers in chapter 4 is the wedding invitation fiasco. So there's a lot that goes on here, as we know when we watched it unfold. When it comes to Thomas Markle Sr.'s inability to come to Meghan's wedding, Lady C points out how that was set up by Meghan's photographer, Jeff Rayner. So Jeff Rayner or Meghan Markle paid Jeff Rayner to go set up an ordeal where they were going to make Meghan's father look classy and take a bunch of pictures and run them in the press so she wouldn't be ashamed of him. But she wasn't ever ashamed of him. That wasn't the problem from the beginning. The problem, as we know, is that she sold the palace a bill of goods, that she was this hard-laden, self-made woman who struggled through poverty and racism all her life, as she told Harry and everybody she did. And that when her dad, a successful lighting director, shows up, that's not gonna fly. So of course he couldn't come. And she didn't invite anybody else. She didn't invite another Markle, including Samantha's daughter. And we heard in that stupid mockumentary that they made about themselves, about how they made such a big deal about telling her that she wasn't invited. In the meantime, the monarchy and the royal family is begging her to bring people from her family. Lady C says the palace offered security, media training to both maternal and paternal sides of the family, and Meghan only accepted it on behalf of her mother. Then what happened was the press sees none of her Markle family is there, but her Markle family is starting to reach out. I've got put into the pictures here the text of Tom Markle Jr.'s note to the royal family, the one that contains things like keep her away from animals and children, which I would love to know what that was about. And we know that Samantha Markle came out swinging first. And just because of the worldwide nature of this conflict, of course, the Markles were hit back by a worldwide backlash because Meghan was so liked at that point. And they were unable to face that and were victimized to an extent. I think it got to an extent where it was like, okay, we get your side, Markles. Now we get it. So, and you were definitely wronged and you've definitely turned out to be right as far as your sister's concerned. But let's just kind of not talk about it anymore. Let's just kind of let it fade back into the woodwork here, and you guys make that a family problem that you dish out together and don't drag the whole world into. At least that was my stance on it. And if others are in support of the Markles continuing to come out with their story, by all means, I just kind of felt like, okay, I get it. I get the point. I get that you were wronged by her. But also, you're never going to get her to change. And she's doing a good job of running herself into the ground. So if I were you, I would just sit and watch it happen and maybe come out with a well-timed I told you so at times. Maybe I don't begrudge them that. But not only did she leave, not invite her own family, but there were empty seats in the wedding. And there were European royals that were left out of the ceremony or the party afterwards when there were empty seats. And so it was a bit of an issue. Meghan's refusing to invite people that you invite to weddings. You invite, when I got married, I invited a whole bunch of people from my husband's side or then husband's side, whole bunch from my side. I didn't know half the people I was inviting from my husband's side, but your familyism is bringing marriage is bringing two families together. And to do a good marriage and to do a wedding, its service is to make all of that family feel included and feel a part of an event, because they're going to be in your big events from then on out, including the having of babies, Meghan. But she doesn't see it that way. Okay. Well, everybody, that is the end of chapter 4. Please like, please share, Please subscribe. Please comment as things interest you. And we will move forward with chapter 5 in Lady C's book soon. I am going to, as I said, try to be on top of these episodes of with Love Meghan. So, as I said, I don't think Netflix is even going to give them the fanfare of releasing one once a week. I think that they're going to dump them all at 3 a.m. this morning because they said that it was going to be first aired 12 a.m. Western time, so 3 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. So that would be like 8 a.m. Greenwich Mean Time, where you guys are in the UK or where some of you are. So I am going to take a look at 3 and see how many episodes are up. Maybe they are going to tease us and make us wait week to week, but either way, I'm going to try to spurn out those episodes, critiquing it and adding my 2 cents in as fast as possible. So again, that you feel that you can critique and that you can, make fun and share your perspective without having to give views to this shit show. So that's the plan. So I hope to see you sometime tomorrow night with at least the first episode of With Love Meghan, and hope to get them out to you quickly, as quickly as I can from then forward. Okay, so again, please, if you're here, you're watching for the first time, please subscribe. It helps the channel so much. And if you like the channel, just click like. Comments are great. I read everyone. I comment to everyone when I can. And I just really appreciate your support of the channel. So thanks again, and it's good to see you this time, and I look forward to seeing you very soon with Love Meghan. All right, bye-bye.